Hello everybody. Today we're going to be adding and subtracting rational functions. So one thing to always keep in mind when we're adding and subtracting is the fact that we need common denominators. That is one of the most important things that you need to remember. I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this problem so I can have this below so you don't get confused with that 5, which is just a question. So when I do these problems, you always have to keep in mind that r plus 5 is like a package deal. It's like a binomial. So just keep that in mind when we want to make common denominators, that we just can't add numbers. Like I can't just do, oh, let me just do this, y'all. Let me do r plus 4 and then add a 1. Like you're not allowed to do that. The only things that you're allowed to do is you're allowed to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number or same terms. So when I'm looking at this problem, I see that I can just multiply this side by 4, and I can multiply this by 4, and I can multiply this by r plus 5, and I can multiply this by r plus 5. Because in reality, what you're doing, if you think about it, is 4 divided by 4 is 1. R plus 5 divided by r plus 5 is 1. So even though we're changing this problem, we're not actually changing the value of what it is. And that's the reasoning why we're allowed to do that. So when now doing this, we copy our denominator once. And then when we do 4 times 3r, that is 12r. And then when we do 2r times r and 2r times 5, we get 2r squared plus 10r. We see our like terms, and we get 2r squared plus 22r over 4 parentheses r plus 5. You're about to get annoyed real quick because when you look at 2 and 22, and even the r's, let's just look at each term, they have common denominators, so we're able to factor out a 2r, and we're left with r plus 11. And just remember, if I did 2r times r, that's 2r squared. If I did 2r times 11, that's 22r. So this is equivalent, so we are allowed to do it, and we did it correctly. And then I'm going to divide it by 4 parentheses r plus 5. Highlight 2 over 4, which then becomes a half. So I have r times r plus 11 over 2 parentheses r plus 5. And then I'm going to box it. Sometimes people struggle looking at my parentheses, so I'm going to make that look a little better. And you end up with r parentheses r plus 11 over 2 times r plus 5. And that will be our final answer for this question. So yeah, that's how you do this one. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next example and erase this. With these, it takes practice, and you need to see as many different types of problems so you know what to do, even though sometimes there is value in just thinking on your feet. So when I look at number 7, the first thing I notice is b squared minus 4. I'm going to go ahead and factor that to kind of see if it has anything in common with my left side. And as we can see, both of them have a b plus 2. So I'm happy about that. So I know that my left side is just missing b minus 2. And I can just multiply the top and the bottom by that. I can copy my denominator since they're the same. And then I'm going to go ahead and distribute these. B squared times b is b cubed. B squared times negative 2 is negative 2b squared. And then I still got that minus 8 hanging out over there. And then when I look at this, this is not something that I normally can factor. Doesn't look like something that doesn't look like something that can be factored. So you're done here, and this is your final answer. You have to remember it's really easy to make simple math mistakes when doing this. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your work. Just double check everything. Time to move on to the next one. So we move on to this next one, and once again, I'm just gonna write it under so there's no confusion. And do you notice I kind of leave some space because I know I'm gonna have to multiply the top and bottom by binomial. So when I look at this, I see two different binomials, and that means I need to multiply them by each other. So that's why I'm gonna multiply this by a plus 4, multiply this by a minus 5, a minus 5. So I want you to watch the way that I do this one because once again, I can just do this, right? I can just multiply it and I get 6a squared plus 24a. But this minus sign is going to cause us some trouble because it's so far away from the problem. So let me make this a little closer because in reality, this is negative 4a. And it's multiplying both of these. So that's why it's really important that you don't forget about that negative. It's negative 4a times a, which is negative 4a squared. It's negative 4a times negative 5, which is plus 20a. So just remember when you're subtracting that negative sign does distribute to everything to the right. So I'm going to look at this real quick, make sure I did not make any math mistakes. And I did not. So color code like terms. All right. And let's see what we get. We get 6a squared minus 4a squared, which is 2a squared. 24a plus 20a is 44a over a minus 5, a plus 4. So let's make sure that we did that correct. Didn't mess up in any signs. I think we're good. And technically, I could factor out a 2 and the a on the top, and I'm left with a plus 22. But it's not really necessary because nothing crosses out, or aka divides out. So that's your final answer. I think both would have been acceptable, honestly. So that's how we do that problem. And we have one more to do after this. I always get paranoid when I do these because I'm always scared that I make a little math mistake. But, you know, I'm going to give myself some props and just say I got this and I did it correctly. So I'm going to erase this now so we can move on to the next one. Don't forget, you can always pause and rewind the video. And let's do this last one, which is number 8. So this one, I hope you realize that there's two denominators that you have to factor. So we got x over x minus 1, x plus 1, minus 2x over what two numbers multiply to negative 2 and add to 1. Well, I believe that's an x plus 2, x minus 1. And when I look at this, where's my smiley faces? Let's get the colors out. I see these two are the same and that they have two binomials that are not the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by x plus 2, multiply this by x plus 2, multiply this by x plus 1, multiply this by x plus 1. I hope you notice that I always kind of give space in between the problems, even though I have a bad habit of this negative sign kind of straying away. I'm going to make that a little closer. Just keep the purple color. So now I'm going to copy my denominator once. Okay, we got a lot of action in this one. And then we're going to distribute. So we get x squared plus 2x. And if you remember what I said earlier about this negative sign, it's going to get you in trouble. It's going to affect everything on the right. And we get this. Double check our math. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times 1 is negative 2x. Cool. Both of these are like terms. Both of these are like terms. So I end up with negative x squared over x minus 1, x plus 1, and x plus 2. And that is it. Have a great day.